and sage a little bit. Have you ever felt like you needed to reignite your practice? Like something has happened, you've fallen out of routine or you've fallen out of practice. Because routine doesn't quite sound right, but have you ever felt like that where you're like, I'm not in touch with my practice anymore and I want to reignite it? Well, today, Kat and I are going to tell you 5 ways on how you can reignite your practice. Have a drink. Oh. Hey witches, it's Jayme
and Kat,
and we are here today to tell you 5 practices on how to reignite your witchcraft practice. So the first practice that we want to talk about is pretty simple, and everybody's heard of it because you basically get taught it since like day 1 of your whole entire life, but it's setting goals. But in witchcraft practices, I feel like setting goals is a little bit different, and you don't have to be strict with yourself. Like, what would be a super strict witchcraft goal? You're a Libra moon, so I know you know. Are you a Libra? We're Libra moons, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Libra moons. I don't know. You have to pull a tarot card every day.
What that does is it puts a lot of pressure on you to do this thing. You don't give yourself an end date. So the first tip in when you set a goal for yourself is give yourself an end date. That's what I see witches feel frustrated with most. They tell themselves, I'm going to pull a tarot card every day, but they don't give it an end date. So it's more of like, convert this into an experiment. I'm going to pull a tarot card every day for 30 days and then see how you feel with that practice. I know I've said this before, but it's an important part of goal setting that we have an end date with it. And you have a clear-cut achievement that you're looking for. So what would be the purpose of pulling a card every day for 30 days? What would you think that people would get out of that?
Well, I've actually done that.
Hey.
And then I got burned out doing it, and there was no end date, and then I just quit, and now it's been like a year, and I haven't done that.
But so what did you learn during that time, or like what did you get out of it?
I was looking for a pattern, I guess. I was looking for actually, the reason I pulled a card every day was for a message from the universe. I asked for a message from the universe for that day. What does the universe have to tell me about today? And I would pull a card and I would read it and I would write it down. And then I would have a list of all the cards and I would see a repeating pattern. And so I used it for that. I was like, okay, so the universe is really trying to tell me this one message about whatever it was. It's been a while since I've done it, but that's why, because I wanted to connect with universe, spirit. I wanted to know what spirit was trying to tell me, because I feel like they are always talking to us. We're just not always listening. And so that's why I used it to try to get messages about what was going on in my life, what I needed to be aware of, what I needed to focus on, and I would get repeating cards. And I know you've experienced this yourself when you pulled cards for a consistent period of time.
Right.
But as Jayme said, I did not give myself an end date. I didn't know, because this is probably a year ago or maybe even more, and I didn't know I should give myself an end date. That would have been really helpful, because then when I quit doing it, now I'm like, I don't pull my cards anymore.
Well, and then there's guilt around that, which
exactly.
I didn't stick with my practice.
Yeah.
But your practice doesn't have to last forever. It's not like I pull a card a day until the end of time. It's I pull a card a day for 30 days to get blank. So when you're setting your goal for your spiritual or witchcraft practice, give yourself that goal, but make sure that you have a defined outcome that you're looking for. I want to see a pattern. Is there something that the cards repeat to me? And that there's an end date so that you know I'm only doing this 30 days. That's my commitment level. And then after that, I can take a break. I can start over, because it's still up to you. But those 2 things allow you to not feel, number 1, like you failed or gave up too soon or got defeated by the cards. And 2, if there is a pattern or there's messages, you learn it in 30 days. And then you don't have to continue to do it for a year, 2 years, or the rest of your life.
Which is unreasonable. But another thing that I think we always stress this in our New Witch meetup is about journaling, especially as a new witch. And if you decide that you have to journal every day and then you can't keep up with that, you feel guilty about it. So make a plan to journal every day for a week, or journal every day for 2 weeks, and then let that go by the wayside, let that practice end, so you can reflect on the journaling that you did for a couple of weeks. and then make another plan. Maybe you're writing. Now I write big things that happen. I think you do the same thing.
Right, just
like
big
you
events.
Kind of go back and reflect over the month and say what happened this month that was big that I want to remember at some point in time, so that it doesn't feel like a chore to journal.
Right.
It shouldn't be a chore to journal or to pull a tarot card or to whatever the practice
Cleanse
is.
your crystals, cleanse your house,
whatever
do
it
a
is.
spell. The moment that your spiritual practices become a chore, you're no longer feeling joy around them. So that means that you're lowering your vibration as you go into your practice, whatever it is, whatever the goal is that you're seeking. So find something that you want to do that gives you joy to do it. Because if you know what you're looking for out of that goal, it's a lot easier to go into it saying, I know exactly what I'm looking forward to at the end of this. I can't wait to see the result. And keeping the time small. Like, as I give new witches homework or things to think about or journal about, it's usually a 30-day process that I give them to go through it, because the first week there's a lot of motivation. The second week they're like, is this really for me? I'm not sure. The third week they're thinking, I'm all effed up, I'm all over the place, I can't keep track of anything. And by the fourth week they're going, oh my gosh, I think I really need help. There's some serious stuff going on here. So it takes to that fourth week for them to understand something in this process is working, and it's much deeper than they ever thought it was going to be. You know, the cards coming through with a message, or if they're assessing the energy of their home, or they're looking at their relationships, you know, the patterns from their childhood, whatever it is. 30 days, you're going to start really finding some stuff out. And at that 30-day mark, you assess and you say, do I go on? Do I change my goal? Do I do something else? But giving it an end date is good.
I also think, Jayme, that, you know, what you choose to do, whatever practice it is, some can be more labor intensive, if you will. So like journaling, time consuming. Yeah, you have to carve out, if you decide you're going to meditate, that takes time set aside out of your schedule. That's harder to do for some people depending on their lifestyle. If you have kids and jobs and husband and all of that, than if you're single and just have a dog like me. Easy thing to reignite your practice using goals is to pick something small that you can do. For example, if every morning you have a cup of coffee
or tea,
you stir it with intention. So I know Jayme does this, and I picked this habit up from her. When I stir my coffee, I give thanks. I put a little cinnamon in it, and I give thanks. And what does that take? The effort in that. I'm going to stir my coffee anyway. And just remembering to be grateful and say the little gratitude that I'm like, thank you for this day and whatever it will bring. And that's super easy to do. So you can also kind of get back in tune. That's a goal that you could set for yourself, to remember
small practices,
small little things that you can do that don't take a lot of time, because let's face it, we live in a busy world, and some people have crazy busy lives with kids and family and just all kinds of stuff.
Stuff's always happening.
Yeah. So, you know, pick something small, I would say, is another good way to reignite with a goal. Pick a small goal.
And I know that we're talking about daily practices, the things that we've mentioned, but there's even just like a weekly practice. So if you were super interested in the moon, which a lot of the new witches that I teach are really wanting to connect with moon cycles and understand them and what does it mean for them. So a moon can move through 2 big cycles, right? From waxing and then all the way through waning. So if you just did goals for the waning and the waxing moon, then that's only 2 for a month. That's very limited in time or whatever you're going to add to it. So you can break it down even small. You could make the thing that you're doing, the activity, even smaller within a 1 month period, and then assess how you like it.
Yeah.
So our second tip to reigniting your practice is to plan the days out on what you're gonna do. I know the last thing was we talked about daily stuff and maybe weekly or, you know, twice a month, but give yourself that time frame. Say on Wednesday the 23rd, I am going to, and then label it, and don't let anybody steal that time from you. Don't let anybody butt in. This is where you can draw your healthy boundaries with the people that are around you, with your family, and you say, no, this is me time. I already put this in my calendar. It's like keeping a date with yourself. It's like scheduling a meeting at your work. Take it as seriously. Your practice is something that grows your heart, soul, mind, body, the joy in your life. All of that is so important for you to function in the other areas of your life. So take it seriously as far as when you make a commitment to yourself, don't let other people pull you away from it. So this is to plan the day that you're going to do your practice, whether that's every Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, full moon, new moon, whatever it is. Make that plan and then stick to it. And if somebody tries to pull you away from your practice, this is a really good thing to see early on, that they are breaking your healthy boundaries, that they're not honoring your time the way that they should. And that's another conversation you can have. So as you set up and prioritize yourself, you'll start to see the people who do not prioritize you maybe the same way that you prioritize them. It's just another look on as you plan for yourself to reignite your practice. You'll see the things that start weighing on you or pulling you away from it, and you can assess on whether or not they should be in your life. So the next tip is a little deeper or harder to explain or talk about, because it's really about developing the core skills that you want from your practice. What would you say your core skills?
Well, I do carve. So I work full time.
You work full time.
I work full time. So I really have to carve out time in my week and dedicate that for my witch practice. And part of my witch practice is with Jayme is helping other witches along. And that requires me to spend time. And so I have to carve that out of the week. Wherever I fit that in, I have to make time for that. And
so what would be the core practices that you do within a month's time? Like a repeated thing that you do?
Well, every week I have to prepare for the new Witches Meetup. Every week I have to write a blog post. Every week I have to post something to social media. And that I just can't post anything. I have to give thought in. I have to put thought into it.
And it's all witchy topics, so there's probably some research and learning along the way.
There's definitely research, and there's also conveying the research to other people that they can understand it.
Right.
And so so a lot of my practice right now has to do with what can I share with other people as what can I share from my experience and my knowledge with new witches like myself. To help them on their journey.
To help them on their path.
Yeah.
I think that for me, my big practices are, especially this year, my word for the year was community. And as a solitary for so long, and really putting myself out there now, when we started the New Witch meetup a couple years ago, is to truly create authentic relationships. And that does take practice, and it takes commitment to check in with people, to remind yourself that you're not the only one in the world, and that as you help people, you get really bonded to them. And so I have a lot more texting than I do, or emails, or checking up with people. As a spiritual life coach, that bleeds into it. It's very hard to be somebody's coach and not become their friend or be very invested in their life. So that's been a huge change for me this year, is to allow myself to go further with people than I have in the past.
And that takes, takes effort, and it takes a tremendous amount of time. And somewhere in your life, something has to give. So on one night of the week, like tonight is Wednesday night, and her husband's upstairs doing whatever he's doing, and we're making this video because this is part of it. So
this is part of it.
It's a dedication, and carving out that time and making that time a priority.
Absolutely. So this was the tip that says define your core skills on what you want to learn and what you want to be going after to, I don't want to use the word perfect, but to perfect it in your own way, to feel comfortable with it, to say, I know this, I know tarot, I know palmistry, I know astrology, I know, those are all really big topics, you guys. I don't expect you to perfect them in a month.
You know what I think when you say that, Jayme, is I think, what's my next elevation?
Sure.
So if you're brand new to this, your next elevation might just be something as simple as practicing gratitude every day. When you're a year or two into it, your next elevation might be reading your tarot cards every day, or learning your tarot cards, studying that. So it is an elevation of your practice, and it depends on where you are on your path, how in depth and deep that might be.
All right, the next one is so easy, and I'm hoping that you can find inspiration. Actually, that might be the next one. No. And I'm hoping that you can find inspiration from YouTube, Instagram. I cannot speak on TikTok. I've not heard great things about the stuff that goes on there for witches, but in the world of witchcraft, when you find inspiration, you find what excites you. And that can be so important when reigniting your practice. Remembering why you wanted to start this practice in the first place. So finding things that are super inspirational, like a beautiful ritual or a spell that seems enchanting for yourself.
Or what about finding somebody to follow and listen to their videos,
Learning.
Learning,
Yes.
because a huge part of witchcraft is your practice
Research.
is learning, is just absorbing
Learning and
information.
research, yeah.
And so I think finding people to follow, and because I get a lot of inspiration listening to other people, finding people to follow on YouTube, and just sitting and listening to I don't watch them, but I definitely listen.
To
I just
their words,
listen to what they're saying. So, yeah.
So finding what inspires you is a perfect way to reignite your practice. I know that most of the people that I've taught really do enjoy the beautiful side of witchcraft when they put things together that look really beautiful and pleasing to them. When we are around things that we feel are beautiful, we are actually elevated in emotion. We start to become present in appreciation, which leads to gratitude, which leads to joyfulness. So if you're somebody who likes art, like I love impressionist artwork, when I get around that artwork, I'm very much just right there with that painting. And so having that appreciation for beauty leads me to gratitude and joyfulness and just being in awe of the artwork. That is inspiration.
And you know what? What I think of when you say that is this might manifest in decorating your house, or working in your garden or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
creating beautiful spaces.
Yeah, just creating beautiful spaces. Maybe using feng shui to clear out things and increase flow, or
right, clear out your stuff that you don't need to allow energy to flow through more easily.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so lastly, our last thing is pretty simple because it's not discussed much, but when you hear it, you'll think, yeah, that makes perfect sense. When you realize that the magic and the mundane world are not really separate, that they are intertwined, and you start to bring in your mundane into your magic and your magic into your mundane, that things like just your cinnamon shaker can be your intention tool. Just that one spoon that you use all the time can be the thing that when you pick it up, you are setting intentions as you stir your tea or coffee. That is bringing the magic into the mundane. And when we lose the wall between the two of them, everything that you do can be magical feeling for you. An example, when I drive, because I used to have super, super bad, awful anxiety about driving. Now when I drive, I actually use this as a time that each person that I see out there on the road that's either having trouble or they're going very slow. I live in Florida, there's a lot of elderly on the road, and instead of being frustrated with them, I actually take the time out to say, I hope you get to where you're going safely. So this is just driving, but I've actually
compassion.
I've brought that into practicing kindness and compassion, and
instead of being frustrated,
instead of frustration,
be understanding. That is just such a great thing, because I'll tell you, it feels a lot better. I do that too.
There's no reason to be frustrated with people or judge them or judge their situation when you don't really know. That's practicing a magical way of thinking, bringing in that gratitude, joy, love, higher self-being,
compassion, kindness
into a mundane thing like driving. One of the things that a very famous medium that I've worked with told all of us was, don't bring anything into your life that you don't want to experience. This relates to what you think about, you bring about. So as you go on your path throughout the day, if you start having those angry or irritated feelings, you attract that same thing back to you. So don't watch shows or listen to music that brings up anything that's going to irritate you or agitate the situation, because that's what you're going to attract more of. That is breaking down the wall between the magic and the mundane. Just being very present in your moment and living as if each moment is magical. It's a blessing to be in that space right then, to see what positive effects you might be able to have on the world around you. Thank you guys so much for joining us for these 5 tips on how to reignite your practice. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more like this, hit the subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.